can begin now, Keelan, are you
Alright.
guys start recording? Okay.
Recording.
Yep. Alright guys, so just make sure you pay attention. Thank you. Okay.
No, you should have.
Oh, that's like that thing that you do on the A&E show.
Whenever.
Keelan, you good?
Recording. Okay. Hi, I am Melissa Erickson, the Director of Career Services at Lincoln College of New England. And I thought it might be helpful to understand a little bit about my background. My first job was at a record store in Manhattan, and I worked there because I loved music. But then I realized after working my way up to a manager that there was nowhere else to go. So I figured I had to change my career. So my sister and brother both were in advertising, and they seemed to have long lunches, and it seemed like a very easy, cushy type of a company to work for. So I realized maybe that's for me. So I went through the newspaper and I found that there was an entry-level position for a receptionist. So I figure, okay, I have to start from the bottom if I'm going into a new career. So I applied for that job and I got it, and then I worked my way up there into human resources, and I worked for that company for 3 years. Then I moved, and there was no advertising area where I had moved to, so I had to start over again. And I found a local job for a medical distributing company, and they had a job for a floater, and I didn't even really know what that was, but I went to apply for the job, and I found out that a floater meant that you had to go from department to department and spend a little time in each of them doing very easy things in all the different departments, like filing or things like that. And so I got that job, and I started going to the different departments, and I realized that it was all very simple work. So I did it as fast as I could, and then I went back to the person in each department saying, well, I've finished that work, is there anything else I can do? And because of that, I was running around this building. They had 150 employees, and I kept seeing another man running around the building, and I didn't know who he was, and he didn't know who I was.
Floater? He was another floater?
Well, you're gonna find out.
Well, that's your husband now? Is that how
No.
this goes?
So, anyway, 2 or 3 of the different departments, 2 or 3 of the different departments had requested me to work in their department full-time because of how I approached the work, and I did a very good job. So then they called me down to Human Resources, and they said, what am I doing? And I said, why? And they told me that the owner of the company went in there and said, who is this person running around the building? He, it turned out, was the other person running around the building. So I came to his attention too. So they said that these other departments want me to work for them, and now the owner notices the job I'm doing too. So anyway, I ended up getting 2 custom positions designed for me at that company. So I'd work at one desk till lunch, and then I took another job in the afternoon, and they knew I wanted to make extra money, so they gave me a project I could take home 1 weekend a month. So they created this position based on my strengths and my taking everything as to be important. So this is something that I feel is very important for all of you to know, is that if you're going to get promoted, if you go above and beyond, and if you take everything that you do, no matter how small, take pride and do a really good job, people will notice that, and that kind of an attitude will help you to always be promoted and be successful at whatever you do. Now also, part of why I'm telling you my path is that I did not complete college, and I kind of went wherever seemed to make sense or was available to me, or where I could start over from an entry level. So I don't believe that college is right for everyone, but I do believe it does give you certain benefits and perks by having that versus not. And my next position, I moved again, and I needed to find a new job, and so that meant a new career for me. So I went into home care, and it was a position that I really wasn't sure what it was for. And over 100 people applied for that job, and I had no experience, and I got the job. So that also tells me that our attitude is really important, because it had to be my attitude. I'm sure in all those 100 people who applied, others had experience, and they went for somebody who didn't. So the only thing I had going for me at that time for it would be my attitude. So I started working at that job, and I worked there for 3 years, but during that time a woman was hired who sat next to me, and she came out of college with a degree, and they paid her more money. And I had
But how
worked
much
there.
more?
I don't really remember, it's been quite a
Was
while.
it like a lot more?
I don't really remember. It was more, and I had worked there probably for 2 years. And so now, this person who just started was making more money doing the same thing.
So she got a degree for it?
Right, so she came in because she took her time, and so that's just one of the things that, you know, you might experience, like I have, because I did not complete my education, you know, going that next distance. But the only limitations that you have are the ones that
Put
you,
upon yourself?
exactly. And for example, I created my own company about 23 years ago. It's still running. I have somebody running it for me while I'm doing this job. It's called A Balanced Life, and I organize health and wellness fairs for large companies like ESPN, Pat and Whitney, Pepperidge Farm, you know, large companies, and I basically bring good information to the employees, hoping to help them to live healthier lives while many times both parents are working. Who has time to look into everything they might want for them or their family? So that is the purpose of my business. I also have, I was recently the chairman of the board of the Southington Chamber of Commerce, and that has 600 business members. And I've recently written a book. An interest and a hobby of mine has been Japanese psychology, and it's kind of different. Most people aren't familiar with it, but I came upon it over 20 years ago and read different books. It actually is.
Japanese psychology.
And so I've become certified in that, and I never knew what I would do with it, but recently I've written a book. And so part of my message here to you is that I think everybody has their gifts and special strengths and talents, and I encourage you to find things that you enjoy, that you're interested in, and that you're passionate about, because if you figure out what you're interested in, unlike me, who went through many different things, really not being probably the right thing for me, if you figure it out, you'll have a much more successful career and you'll enjoy it. I mean, all of us are used to going into different businesses and seeing people who are miserable in their jobs. So part of that is because they're not doing the right thing. And so if you do figure it out, you'll have a happier and a more fulfilled life. Now, internships are very important, and people don't understand how important they are. Now imagine if you're the business and you have a student who is an intern who's coming in to help at your business and to learn at your business. Now, an intern could take an attitude like, I'm not getting paid. Boy, am I going to do a great job. Maybe I'll learn a little bit. Maybe I'll, you know, just trying to help them a little but not really care. Well, that's an attitude you could have, but if you had a different attitude, like, I'm going to do a great job, I'm going to go above and beyond and help them as much as I can. Well, now, this is going to get the business to say, look at this person. They're not even getting paid, and they're doing a fantastic job. I want to hire this person. Maybe they don't even have a job available, but they may create one for you if you do that type of a job while you're there. But also, say an opening happens while you're an intern, they might say, well, we want you to have this job because we know who you are and we see what you do, versus putting an ad in the paper and not knowing who they're gonna hire, because they really don't know, even though they've seen the resume and the cover letter and they've interviewed you for a few minutes, they don't know what they're getting. So as an intern, they will know what they're getting before they've even bought anything. So that's the best way to figure out also what you want to do. I mean, say you think you're interested in one thing, you go and you intern at a company, and then you say, no, this isn't for me. That's great. You just saved yourself a lot of time. Maybe some people go to school, like a friend of mine, she went to law school, George Washington University, NYU University. She never practiced a day in her life. She came out with over $100,000 in school loans and everything like that, and never did anything with it. So, you know, that's another thing that you don't want to do, is go to school for the wrong thing. So an internship, I would, if I was you, and knowing what I know, if I thought I was interested in a few things, I would actually just call some local businesses and say, you know what, I'm a high school student, I think I'm interested in this, would you mind if I came down there for a few hours, like 1 week, and just kind of see what goes on and get a better feel for this business to see if this is something I would like to pursue. I'm sure every business would be happy to do that. And there, you will really see firsthand, what are they doing, and does this feel like you're excited about it? You could just save yourself so much suffering, you know, by doing the wrong thing. Now, I talked about my attitude, and a positive attitude, people want to be near that. They do not want to be near complaining and, you know, oh, like today, the weather's horrible, and the traffic, and, you know, just all this type of thing. Sometimes businesses identify who is really negative and brings everybody else down. They don't want employees like that. They really don't. So you will go much farther in your career if you really decide, I'm not going to be a complainer, and I'm going to be something that people want to be near. Again, that will be something that sets you apart from other people who mostly complain. Let's see, and you know, especially before you know the atmosphere of a company, always dress above what you think you should do. My sister's theory was to dress well all the time, so they'll never ask you to do like messier jobs. Like, oh no, she's dressed too nicely, but I don't think you have to go that far, but you certainly want to look pulled together and that you care by your presentation. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, I just kind of like wanted to get everything out there. Anything from you, Ed, or?
No, I think you made a very good point as far as like the internship opportunities. It could be a terrible waste of money and time if you start pursuing something that you may not be interested in at all. Excuse me?
So could you imagine that? That'd be
A waste of time.
Yeah. I mean,
just wasting all that money and everything just on something that you don't even really care about.
Exactly, and then there's plenty of people out there. I mean, we've seen people come in and out of this building who are willing to take students in and to even just let them shadow for a day, for maybe a few hours. So that's like, if you're able to do that now and start reaching out to people, one, it shows that you have initiative, but two, that you're willing to try a bunch of different things to make sure that when you leave here, you have a strong foundation, and then you have a clear path as to where, a clear direction as to where you want to go. So that's an excellent point. And
that makes sense. That goes in with the whole like attitude aspect of it. Because it's like when you're complaining all the time, it's like life just gives you more things to complain about.
Absolutely.
But when you're grateful, it gives you more things to be grateful about.
Exactly, and even if it's an opportunity that you didn't necessarily enjoy, like you said, be grateful that you had the opportunity. You know, that's something that now you know, hey, I'm definitely not interested in that. Maybe I may try this, you know? So that's an excellent point.
Yeah, there was a student who I put into an internship who thought he wanted to be a dentist, but he really didn't know how he would be when it got to some of the messier parts of it. And so we put him into a dentist's office and he was fine. So now he went off to school knowing it's the right field for him.
Exactly.
I can talk a little bit, if there's time, about preparing your resume and your cover letter.
Sure, yep, and I mean, resumes is something that, I believe next week, no, I'm sorry, not next week, because we have break, but when we come back from break, we are gonna be, reviewing that in AV. So I know that's something that we worked on this semester.
resume.
Yep, so, we're gonna give students the opportunity to update their resumes in the coming weeks.
Well, the most important thing is to make sure there's no errors, and I'm sure you've heard that, but there are people who, they will look at the resume and your cover letter, and if they find errors, they're not even gonna interview you, and you certainly don't wanna not have an opportunity because of that, you know, with your spell check and everything today. But also, the cover letter is something to make them interested in looking at your resume, and so you want to make them interested. So it should be it should be fairly short, like 2 short paragraphs ideally. And what you should do is, if you read an ad and you look at some of the most important skills they're looking for, and then make it relevant to you. So for example, if they're looking for somebody with patience and a good organizational skills, well, then you would put in there, not in those words, but organizing office areas is a strength of mine that I enjoy. And patience, I've worked with the public, and I understand that everybody's different, and therefore I have to have patience when working with the public. So what you want to do is have them read this cover letter and the bell go off in their head that I know these are things I'm looking for. Now I'm reading this. Well, this person is a perfect fit. They have some of the exact things I'm looking for. And also, many of the larger companies will put your resume and cover letter through a filter. And they will look for some of the words that are in the ad. And if they don't find it, yours will not be populated for them to even look at. So it's only going to generate the ones that are relevant. And so that's another reason that you want to put that information in. But also you should research any company that you're interested in working for, and before you interview, and also put something about it in your cover letter. So say you're going to a physical therapy office, and you've researched the website, and I would put in there something about, I didn't realize the full scope of services that your office offers, and it would really be a wonderful experience for me to learn and to be a team player at your office. You know, and it might say, I went to your website and saw the scope of services. So now they're looking at other people who just say, oh, I want to work in a physical therapy office. You know, that's like a flat line. But wow, this person went to the website, they're impressed by the services, they're excited about it. That is enthusiasm, that makes yours stand out. And that's what all of this is about, is having an edge and kind of speaking to the person who is reading that cover letter enough so that they then want to go look at your experience and the resume. So those are some of the highlights. I mean, you also want it to be user-friendly, meaning some resumes I've seen are scary looking because there's so much information on it. I would just say, I don't have time to read that, and I would just push it to the side. I'm going to pick up somebody else's that's easy for me to read, that is concise, that saves my time. So that's like another thing to picture. Who's getting this on the other end, and are you considering, you know, their experience? And kind of putting yourself in their shoes will help you. And a few of you came in and shook my hand and greeted me with a nice smile. That is very important. You don't want to go on an interview, and that's how you should greet the person. Go over, shake their hand, not too hard, not too soft, look into their eyes, give them a nice smile. That makes everybody feel a little at ease because both of you are in an awkward situation. But you also want to have a good energy. I've interviewed people where I want to take their pulse because they just seem like they're sleeping, and I would think, do I want to have this person in the office? No. I want to have somebody who has some energy and enthusiasm and will make people feel better. So you want to make sure to have some good energy when you're interviewing. Any questions?
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. To show our appreciation, we'll give a round of applause.